now, from San Francisco, California, at Candlestick Point, it's the Stick9er Empire podcast show with your hosts, Iron Mike Arango, Lucas McLaughlin, and Lucas Ortiz.
All right, Stick9er Empire special podcast in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Stick9er Empire podcast. As always, I have one of your three hosts here. I am Mike Arango. I'm here with Lucas Ortiz and Luke McLaughlin. Guys, we just got over the draft here this weekend. There's a lot of ups, a lot of downs. There's a lot of ways you can take this. A lot of people are giving us a little bit of heat on our second pick of the draft, our third rounder. Let's talk about the first pick first, because I think that was a safe pick. Guys, tell me if you both agree with me. I feel like that was a safe pick in the manner of we didn't get the best athlete. We just got the guy that we think will become a contributor within a year. How do you feel about that, Luke?
I think it's good that we went out and got a safety and we traded up for him, Jair Brown, out of Penn State. I think watching the highlights, he's a good blitzer, which I think he's a physical player. And, when he learns from the best and, there's so many injuries, it's going to be nice. Hufanga needs a little help, we're going to have to see what happens with injuries. And then hopefully he won't get thrown to the wolves right away. But great pick, I think. That was probably one of our best picks.
They can make a good tandem together. I'll agree with that. I think we went a little safe. Tell me if you agree with me, mainly because if you look at the history of this regime, we've only drafted, I think, one really great player in the second round, and that is Debo. Ortiz, how do you feel about it? Do you think we went safe, or do you think he was the best player available?
I don't. I actually think we should have gone offensive lineman. I think we should have been looking at right tackles more specifically. I thought there were some good guys still on the board, not knowing any specific names, but I remember the guys that were available at the time were some pretty decent players coming from good schools. And I don't know, I don't think safety is a huge need. I think we're pretty good there. We have Hufanga at the strong and we have Gibson at the free. And yeah, we do want to draft somebody who could possibly step in the next year. I think we've done a good job of kind of doing the redshirt freshman thing and having a guy like Hufanga come in, do special teams, be a backup, and then in the second year, make the all-pro team. So it's kind of a formula that they seem to want to follow. Aaron Banks is another example of a player taken, didn't really see the field too much his rookie season, but then the second season he comes in and was consistently one of the best pass protectors, run blockers on our team, and really showed why he was a second round draft pick. So sorry to
I like
contradict your statement, but Debo wasn't the only guy that produced coming out of the second round.
Aaron Banks, like that pick, then man, we're in for a long ride because there's
we thought he was a bust after a
bigger
year.
Questionable picks.
That's true. This regime's in year 5 now?
Yeah.
So we got 2 good picks in 5 years in the second round. That's how I look at it.
So I'm going to get my biggest gripe out of the way then and just say that when I was in fantasy football, which I've been doing for 20 years, anytime there's a new guy, and I was the new guy 20 years ago, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. And I would pick guys because I like the Niners. I like way too many Niners on my team. I just like total idiot, right? And that's how I felt about picking Jake Moody. Is do they not know what they're doing? Because I don't think a kicker's ever been picked that early. And yeah, he might be the greatest kicker ever. What are we thinking? We can get a kicker anytime. Why don't we get an offensive lineman or somebody more important? I don't like that pick at all. I guess he would have been gone because there's another team that probably wanted him before we would have had a chance to pick him again. But it's just not important to me. We could get someone on the waiver wire or just draft one later in the game here. What do you guys think?
Most good kickers get drafted in the 7th round. And a lot of them are just walk-on players or undrafted walk-on players.
What do you think, Lucas?
I don't think it was a priority to get necessarily the best kicker in the draft. I know he's been viewed as probably the top guy, but he didn't even win the Lou Groza Award, which goes out to the best college kicker. He went to some other guy. Yeah, he had some clutch kicks, especially in the national. Or not the national championship game. They got I think they got beat in the semifinal game. He had some clutch kicks, and good for him. I'm sure he has an excellent opportunity to be one of the better kickers in the league, but I think you could have had him in the fifth round or later, possibly, or maybe even picked him up after the draft ended. Like who knows how other teams see a player like that. I just don't think there's a big difference between him and the 10th best kicker available in the draft. Like there's not such a big discrepancy that you need to pick him in the third round. I think there's just way too many other needs. Like I think we needed to load up on offensive line. I'm glad we took a safety, but other areas of needs could have been maybe a big bodied wide receiver and give, our whoever's going to be at quarterback, maybe a bigger target. I love Brandon Ayuk. I love Deebo Samuel, but they're not the biggest wide receivers on the team. And, it's nice to have somebody that's 6'4", runs a 4.5, 4.6, maybe not the biggest or the fastest runner on the team, but just somebody with, a big catch radius that makes for easy targets for the quarterback.
2 picks in. So we know who the first 2 picks are. Luke, how do you feel overall? How would you grade us just based on those 2 picks? Because I feel like we got off to a bad start in this draft.
Yeah, I would say like a C. I mean, I like Brown, but I agree with Lucas. We need offensive linemen because they get hurt and that's what wins games. That's why our running game is so good because we're always so stacked on the line. And then I did like, that we were stacking the secondary later on, some later picks. But you got a cornerback not until the 5th round. And then what did you guys think of the tight end they picked? And
which one?
He's the
third one? If we're going to keep on that order, I honestly don't think he was the best tight end in the draft. I see him more as an experimental project. I went back and watched his highlights. There was absolutely nothing on that video that stuck out to me. So through the first 3 picks, I got to give us like a C-. I think the first pick will be a good player. Solid. Doesn't blow the top off. I think the second player, he better be Janikowski-like for him to be worth it. Or Jason Tucker or something like that. And with the third pick, there were a lot of other guys. Ortiz, how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I wasn't super excited about our first 3 picks in the third round, but I'm not too sure. What did people feel about George Kittle when he was picked? Like, were people saying, "Oh, we should have gotten this other guy because he's got this highlight reel tape of all these amazing catches or runs or whatever or sacks," and they looked at George Kittle's highlight tape and it's like he's blocking on an end around or an off tackle run for 10 yards. Like, he's not a guy that jumped off the tape watching highlights. Iowa, where he went to school, wasn't a team that threw the ball a whole lot, and they definitely didn't throw the ball a lot to their tight ends. So you gotta kind of sit and wait. We're not going to know how any of these guys. We're not going to know how good they are until 4 years from now.
Yeah,
4 years from now, we can say, you know what, that was a shitty draft. What was Hal and John Lynch thinking? Drafting a kicker who's not even on the team anymore, or drafting some linebacker in the 5th round.
Yeah.
But guys, we're looking to win now.
Gets cut. Yeah, exactly.
I want players that are
Robert Beal. Is that who you're talking about? And that was in the 5th.
Yeah, I don't know any of the guys that we picked up in undrafted free agents, but they could wind up making the team over these guys that were drafted. And
I would have liked to see them get more cornerbacks too. You guys, like, corners get hurt, and you need good ones, and you need to have depth.
So, guys,
Darrell Luter looks good, but go ahead.
I have a question for both of you, and you can pick who goes first. Going into this draft, everyone was saying that the Niners are about an 11 to 12 win team without any of these players that we just picked up in the draft and undrafted free agency. So how much better do you think we got? Like, do you think we improved the amount of wins that we potentially could have next season, or did we basically just stand pat? Obviously, we're not going to be a worse team, because I don't think any of these guys are going to step in and be starters from day one, but they could potentially be starters, from an injury mid-season, or someone goes down in training camp and, we need like that safety that we just drafted in the third round to step up and, take over for Hufanga or whoever.
I think that
Gibson.
The possibility is funny to me because I'm going to contradict my previous statement. And that is that we did get that kicker so early. And because he's obviously going to be starting, he could have the most impact. I mean, he did hit like a 59-yarder to win a big game once. I mean, that when you're in field goal range, Robbie Solid Gold, who we all know and love, he's starting to fall off a little bit when, they can't really kick beyond 50. So who knows? Maybe he would make the most impact when we're getting down the field and stuck on fourth down when you need points,
Yeah.
You're absolutely
Rango,
right about that. I think Luke is right about that. The simple answer for me is I think we need a few players to overachieve in order for this draft class to really help us out this year. There is a player or two that I think could help us out, and we're going to get to him soon. Next pick, cornerback. I actually like this pick. He has a lot of similarities to Richard Sherman and some of his like pre-combine drills and things of that nature. I'm really excited about the corner. Ortiz, how do you feel about
Darryl Luter? Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think he was from a small school, Alabama.
South Alabama, correctly.
South Alabama, yeah.
I like that pick.
Realistic expectations, make the team, play on special teams. If something crazy happens and somebody gets hurt, he's not going to be a starter, guys. He's not projected to be a starter over Charvarius Ward or Diamador Lenore. So, from what I heard, he's not really a nickel. He's not really a nickel cornerback guy. So, look for him to just be somebody to be a gunner and a special teams contributor, or maybe you put him on the practice squad for his first season and see if you need to pull him up after a year or so. So like that, realistic expectations. I think the only guy that's probably going to step into the role of starter is going to be Jake Moody. Possibly the other guy I think that has a decent chance to make the team as a starter would be the linebacker from TCU, Lee Minter.
Winters.
I know we're kind of jumping the gun. Minters, yeah. I think he has an outside shot of making that third linebacker.
Oh, okay. He looks solid. He's a mini Dre Greenlaw.
Take over for Al Shair's spot, which is, it's a linebacker spot that doesn't necessarily always going to be on the field, especially in third down passing downs.
But still very important. Right?
Yeah, usually the Niners will take out that linebacker and put a nickel cornerback in there. So, two guys, if two guys make this team and start, I will consider it a pretty decent draft. Like we're not a team that needs to have guys coming in as draftees and start right away.
Yeah.
We're pretty stacked as it is. I think we're pretty much too deep already on the defensive line, too deep on the in the defensive backfield.
Speaking of which,
even too deep in the offensive line at some positions.
What do you guys think about Robert Beal Jr. helping Nick Bosa out on the edge?
I love that pick.
So I like
those guys can tend to start, or not,
I love that pick. He runs like a 4.5 40 and he weighs 250 pounds. 250 pounds. That's a developmental monster right there. If they can get him going. He didn't have that many sacks in college, but they were using him in the wrong scheme anyway. They were putting him into coverage, short-term coverage.
They asked him to do different things. They didn't just ask him to rush the passer.
He was a bulldog.
From what I heard, he's a bulldog. He's a Georgia Bulldog, two-time national champion. I think the knock on him is he does have a great get off. I'll give him that, but he doesn't have a whole lot of pass rush move. He's not gonna come in like a Nick Bosa and be a polished pass rusher and have moves on top of moves and be slick with his hands and just have all the nuances down that a defensive end or a pass rusher has. He needs work. He needs to be coached up by Chris Kosurik, and if the Niners can do what they probably saw in drafting him, then he'll be a good player. But he's going to be a backup. He's not going to come in and start. I think Drake Jackson is probably going to hold down the opposite end from Nick Bosa, and we got some pretty good guys backing those two up in Cleveland Farrell from the Raiders, and I'm trying to remember, it was Austin Bryant that came in. Yeah, he was an undersized linebacker. So was Dre Greenlaw.
This info says that
he had a lot of cons coming into the league.
Oren Burks is slated to start strong side linebacker, but Winters should have a chance to push for playing time.
I think Oren Burks is too valuable as a special teamer
Oh, okay.
to be an everyday linebacker. I mean, I could be wrong, but I just see the value in him. He's kind of like the special teams captain. And I think the more that he has to be on the field making tackles as a starting linebacker, the less he'll be able to contribute on special teams. So in a perfect world, I think Winters makes the team as a starting linebacker. You know, the reason the Niners signed Oren Burks was to have him play special teams. Like that's
Nice.
That's the reason he's on our squad.
It was
Right.
that third pick we had was just strange. Like nobody saw that as an A pick or even a B pick. Everyone saw that as a C pick, developmental tight end.
But late in the seventh round, we got Ronnie Bell, wide receiver from Michigan, and then we got another linebacker, Jalen Graham from Purdue.
Because that's my team. I love Michigan Wolverines. So I did see a little bit of Ronnie Bell last season and the year before. Explosive guy, got hurt towards ACL in 2021. Prior to that, he was probably one of the best wide receivers on that team. Big play receiver. Comp would be Steve Smith, former player for the Ravens and the Panthers, most notably. One thing Kyle loves is yak, and that's something that he's going to bring to the team.
Nice.
He's definitely going to have to bring it from day one in training camp and see if he can overtake some of the incumbent starters. Danny Gray's coming back. We'll see how much better he is after
something
an
out of him.
off-season program. Has he gotten stronger? Has he improved his route running? Is he a little more aggressive, or is he going to be Dante Pettis 2.0?
Yeah.
I like Gray so much coming out of college too, man. I feel like he could jump up a little bit for a little guy. He's got speed like crazy. I just think that was a Trey Lance pick. I think they got him for Trey, and now they probably don't have the right QB for him.
But you know what? It's not even fair to Dante Pettis, because at least Dante Pettis showed us something that first season.
Which is a whole nother can of worms, the quarterback situation. But this is a draft show, so I digress.
Yeah.
4 games, he was good.
But you guys, so Jalen Graham, linebacker out of Purdue, I guess he plays the weak side linebacker, but he kind of plays everywhere. He's one of those guys. So
special teamer. If he can make the team, it's gonna be special team.
Just adding depth, right? I mean, if somebody does go
right.
down. Right.
I just don't see how we got too much better. Philly lost a lot of players in the offseason. They lost some coaches, but they've been picking up a lot at running back also. So I think the Niners are the cream of the crop right now in the NFC, but the Eagles are just right behind them right now. I don't think we did enough.
Well, Philly picked up arguably the best defensive tackle in the draft, like a guy that was projected to be possibly 3, and then there was some incident with him and got into a fatal car accident, and
he wasn't the driver, but he was involved. Yes,
he was involved. Yeah, he was. I don't know if he was arrested, but he was called in, and he wasn't really forthright. Like, he tried to evade the cops for a while. So that's something that definitely hurt his draft stock and allowed the Eagles to move up in the draft and draft him. So he could be one of those guys that's kind of like, maybe he's not a great character person, but just gets it done on the job. Dallas Cowboys in the 90s were full of guys like that.
According to Matt Mayoko, I believe it was just recently, he mentioned the Niners were actually ready to move away from our incumbent right tackle over a year ago. So they've been comfortable with McKivitz. Now, I've never heard this until recently, but that's part of the reason we didn't draft an offensive lineman. Have you guys heard anything like that at all? That they're that comfortable with him? I find that interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it shows you what they think of him by how they drafted. They didn't draft a right tackle. They didn't draft any tackles. They didn't draft a guard. They didn't draft a center.
But they
feel pretty comfortable with the units. Right. They feel pretty comfortable with the unit that we have. I think it was interesting. I'm not sure if they were going to make a move or not, but they did clear some cap space right before the draft. Like, they restructured Christian McCaffrey's contract, and I think 1 or 2 other players, and kind of just freed up room to make possibly a trade, maybe for an offensive lineman. You never know. There are some good pass rushers out there still available. There actually is a really good offensive lineman that's a free agent. He's a little older, but I'm talking about Taylor Lewan, who's a Pro Bowl tackle for the Tennessee Titans that wasn't retained. And, maybe a guy like that can come in and be a right a right tackle for you if you're not liking what you're seeing from McKivitz in training camp.
Yeah.
Got you. Guys, let's go around the horn real quick now and decide like overall grades for the team. I'll just shoot first. I see the developmental guys on the latter rounds. I think we'll get a few starters out of that eventually. Can't justify the tight end pick at all. And I can't justify the kicker pick. I think with the kicker, we should have waited to the 5th round. You could still grab a good kicker early, maybe the kicker in the 5th, and get a better tight end with that earlier pick if that's really what you wanted. So I'm going to give the San Francisco 49ers this year a C to C plus, but I do think there's B minus potential if that defensive end turns out to be a great player and that kicker turns out to be a great kicker for the next 10 years. Let's go to you, Luke.
Yeah, I would just go C minus because I just don't. I mean, yeah, he might have a big impact and soon, but I don't like the kicker thing. They could have got a better position player with, to stack the depth on our O-line or best available linebacker or somebody really good, a cornerback would have been nice actually. So I'm going to go C minus on the overall draft and just hope that, I'm wrong and some of these guys climb up the depth chart because like Lucas was saying, there's a lot of injuries and we just don't know what's really going to happen. I mean, look at what happened with our quarterback situation last year. That kind of tells you, it's hard to predict.
I'm still a little upset we didn't draft number 33 Al Bundy out of, Polk High. So, we'll see. We'll see maybe next year if he comes out again. So, I would agree with you.
And before you go, Lucas, do you guys know just a quick update on Purdy? Is he on the mend?
I haven't heard anything from what I've heard, just listening to some podcasts and reading some articles that he's on track and, should be able to start throwing maybe in about 3 months from the day that he finished his
about
surgery.
60 more days before he starts.
60 more days, yeah. He can actually start throwing the football. So
do they end up trading Lance because of the big contract, or do you think they keep him for depth? And who knows?
They almost have to keep him.
If they were going to trade Lance, it would have been before the draft. I think now that the draft is come and gone, they want to see what they have with Lance. I mean, you don't trade something of value when it has the least amount of value, and you can't have any less value than he does right now.
Very true.
You couldn't even get a 3rd round pick for him.
Yeah,
and they still have to pay him
for that draft.
All right, sorry to interrupt, but then Lucas, you can go on with your grading there.
Yeah, so I don't think it was the draft that we were all looking for, but it was the draft that the Niners envisioned would help them be a better team next season. Regardless of who makes the team or doesn't make the team from the draft, we have a Super Bowl caliber team. We're expected to get at least 11 to 12 wins, like I said earlier, depending on who you listen to and what newspaper you subscribe to or sports blog you look at. So we're going to be good no matter what. We have some depth pieces, I think, in this draft that might be able to contribute. I think Jake Moody is going to be a good kicker. Is he going to be better than Robbie Gould? We'll see. I mean, I hope so. We'll just have to wait and see. Kickers historically don't do well in their first couple seasons, and sometimes they have to move on to a new team before they start to get their legs and be more consistent. Yeah. Case in point, Matt Gay, drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, didn't really do too well there. Got picked up by the LA Rams and is now one of the better kickers in the league. I think some other guys that come to mind, maybe like Robbie Gould, it wasn't great his first couple seasons, and then, goes on to be one of the best kickers of all time. So we may not see how good Jake Moody is the first couple seasons. We just have to be patient, hope that he's decent, hope that he's eventually good. And that's what, we're going to have to do with the rest of the guys in this draft. So I hate to grade because we really don't know what these guys are going to be able to contribute, but True. I feel like it was a D. I feel unsatisfied after that draft that we got better, but I also know that we're one of the best teams in the league, regardless of what we added. So D plus.
I appreciate the honesty. I thought my grade would be the lowest. So
yeah,
positive.
Maybe I'm a little influenced by what all the ESPN, Fox Sports, NFL Network people are saying. I think the consensus right now is D to C, and I'm going to say D. So we're all kind of close, you know.
Yep.
Nobody thinks this was the best draft we've ever had, and nobody thinks it's the worst draft we've ever had.
You know what? Maybe we should start reviewing these every year. Maybe in a year or two, we'll come back and review this. And with that said, guys, this is year 4 of the Stick9er Empire podcast. Like and subscribe. That way we can get more contact out.
All right, guys. Gotta go. Talk to you before the start of training camp.
Yep.
Look forward to it.
Go Niners.
Niners.
Go Niners.